A viral ad for the Army depicts a young woman who tells the story of how she has two moms and what led her to enlist in the Army. It is being slammed by conservatives and contrasted with a Russian military ad. Now, in the Russian ad, you see a guy who's like kind of chiseled and he's all serious. It's dark and he's like loading a gun. And he's pulling the bolt back, jumping out of a plane. And in the Go Army ad, it is more like a Disney cartoon of a young woman talking about fighting for equality, and it comes off as fairly woke. Ted Cruz has slammed this ad, and he said an emasculated army is probably not a good thing. When people criticized him, saying that he was insulting the army, he said, no, I just think the Democrats and the woke media are trying to turn our army into pansies. It's really interesting. So I looked into the army ad campaigns, and I have to give you my opinion on all of this. With the utmost respect to those who are serving in the armed forces, I legit mean that. These ads are terrible. They're uninspiring. I don't understand the calling. I watched all of it. It's not just one ad. There's a series of ads. They're not all woke, but it's very childish. Gives the impression that when you join the army, you're going to be in like high school, I guess. And that's when somebody mentioned to me on Twitter, they were like, yeah, they're targeting high school kids. Oh, that makes sense. But what I do find strange is that they're not targeting young men seeking adventure like the ads kind of used to portray. And maybe it's because the army is realizing that the current state of politics makes it impossible to do. They'll be heavily criticized as misogynist or racist or sexist if they do the traditional ads. Now, when you look at the Marine Corps, I pulled up a Marine Corps ad. Yeah, that's still fairly adventurous and kind of on par with what we're seeing from this Russian advertisement. It shows a guy in like, knee-high water with a gun and someone's yelling, yeah, and he's like on the mission. Makes me feel like if you were to sign up for the Marine Corps, you're going to be kicking in doors and taking out the bad guys. And if you sign up for the Army, you're going to be flicking paper footballs at each other, probably bored. And I think maybe that's the case, and maybe that's what they're going for. The Army seems to be actively recruiting based on diversity. That's why their calling campaign it's fairly woke. I got no problem with the general idea of diversity, trying to encourage people to join. And, you just so happen to have characters or individuals who are of different races. But one of these ads does come off as particularly woke, and it's kind of off-putting. When I was growing up, this is just me. No one has to feel the same way as me. I wouldn't be inspired by this. When I see those videos of a guy jumping out of a helicopter and saving lives and pulling people out of burning buildings, that's the kind of thing that was inspiring to me, kind of like superheroes. Today, it's all political. There's another story that's come out where apparently the Army realizes that the current state of politics is causing damage to their ability to recruit. So here we go. The foreign adversaries of the U.S. are going to use active propaganda and harsh ideology and extreme tactics to recruit people who want violence and will use it against us. But the U.S. Army isn't just emasculated. It's not just the Army. The rules of engagement, many service members tell me, are increasingly restrictive. I recently talked to someone who said that when they were overseas, they couldn't actually defend themselves until someone was actively shooting them, which makes it just extremely hard. Perhaps trying to abide by all of these sensitivities makes it very difficult to function when an army's job is to win a war or a conflict or a battle. Donald Trump was heavily criticized for pardoning or commuting the sentences of some people who are charged with very serious crimes. Well, let's take a look at what's going on with the Army, what Ted Cruz is saying, and how wokeness is seeping into our intelligence sector, our law enforcement. What does this mean for the U.S.? Will we be able to defend ourselves? Before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member to get access to this amazing members-only area. Click the members-only button and you can sign up. And do this because it supports our work. It allows us to make more amazing content. We've got new shows on the horizon. And in the event we ever get banned or we get a strike and get suspended, you can find our content here at timcast.com. But don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, but share the video with your friends. It's the best thing you can do to help support my work. Let's read this story from the Army Times. First, they say comment section removed from Army recruiting ad featuring soldier with two moms. Now, that's interesting. But in the article, they bring up Ted Cruz. They did an update where they mentioned this afternoon, Senator Ted Cruz responded to a tweet about the ad campaign, which compared Emma Malone Lord's recruiting ad to that of Russian soldiers, remarking, holy crap, perhaps a woke, emasculated military is not the best idea. The comment section of Malone Lord's story on Facebook, however, is still live. This video is getting absolutely ratioed on YouTube to the point that they end up disabling the comment section, wrote user Ezio Per. Request for comment has not yet been returned by Malone Lord. Now, this individual in the ad, Emma Malone Lord, is fairly active on social media and actively tweeting about all this stuff. And there are many service members defending this individual. Here's the tweet from Ted Cruz. Now, let me show you the story from the Daily Mail. Ted Cruz tears into the woke, emasculated military that's turning into pansies with video showing very different American and Russian recruitment ads. They say the first half opens with footage of a Russian soldier, shaven head, muscular, parachuting from a plane before staring down the scope of his rifle in Arctic conditions. Then it cuts to the animated story of a little girl raised by two moms who describes how she defended freedom by attending LGBTQ marches and grew up to join the U.S. Army. Something I want to point out. I don't know if I can convey accurately over audio, but for those watching, you might get it. In the ad from the Russians, it's a guy and he's sitting in his bed. He sits up and he's looking up. You know, he's like his head is tilted down. He's looking up. He's got like a hood on and it's dark and it's like planes rumbling. And then he jumps out with his rifle. In the ad from Malone Lord, the Go Army ad, she does Disney Pixar kind of weird motions where she's like bobbing up and down. I never really understood that. You ever see like Disney movies and like when someone's going to smile, their whole body bounces like a weird Disney thing? I see that and I'm like, that to me is very strange. Depicting the army like some kind of like Disney cartoon where everyone's hugging and smiling and everyone wins in the end. And I'm like, that's not what it is. I mean, I think the worst case scenario for someone seeking adventure, you're going to be sitting behind a desk doing administrative work. Maybe you're going to be moving boxes, or maybe you'll actually be in, frontline infantry or something and actually see some combat, but it's nothing like the way they depict it. Obviously, both of these videos are propaganda to convince people to join their armed forces. But when you look at Russia, their advertisement is trying to get young men seeking adventure who want to join the army and fight for their country. I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare the two. I mean, I think the army is trying to recruit women and woke people probably to do administrative work, to be completely honest. And the Marines still have their ads, which are a bit more intense. They go on to say, his comments highlight how conservatives fear America's armed forces are being softened by woke principles and follows similar criticism to a CIA advert. You can see actually, so we have some images here. Here's the image of Malone Lord, a cartoon with her two moms, and they're protesting. And then you can see the Russian ad, where it's a guy in the dirt doing push-ups, then in Arctic conditions, staring down what I believe is a bolt-action rifle. They say, Tammy Duckworth responded, "Holy crap, perhaps a U.S. senator shouldn't suggest that the Russian military is better than the American military that protected him from an insurrection he helped foment." That's absolutely amazing because that's just ridiculous. Well, Ted Cruz said, "I'm enjoying lefty blue checkmarks losing their minds over this tweet, dishonestly claiming that I'm attacking the military. No, we have the greatest military on earth. But Dem politicians and woke media are trying to turn them into pansies. The new Dem videos are terrible." Which brings me back to the story from Army Times. They had to remove the comment section from YouTube because people were absolutely roasting this advertisement. I honestly don't care all that much. I'll put it this way. If your ad is ineffective, I'm not going to cry about it. I have tremendous respect for Emma Malone Lord for serving this country. Fantastic. There's a role for everybody, in my opinion. Recently, within the past few months, Tucker Carlson criticized flight suits for women that were, maternity flight suits. And I'm like, dude, I don't expect a pregnant woman to jump out of a plane and go into combat. She can sit behind a computer and do administrative work. But many people expressed that this was still a softening up of the military and that it was going to be bad all around. We're only as strong as our weakest link. Perhaps if that's your opinion, so be it. And this is one of the reasons they probably had to remove comments. They say, since its upload to YouTube, the video's comment section has been disabled. It currently has nearly 1 million views, 36,000 dislikes, and only 775 likes. Beginning May 12th, we started noticing a significant uptick in negative commentary. Laura DeFrancisco, public affairs chief for the Army's Enterprise Marketing Office, told the Army Times, "The comments violated our social media policy and were not aligned with Army values. Out of respect for the safety and well-being of our soldiers and their families, we have disabled the comments. Excuse me? The safety? Now this is where you're stepping on toes, ma'am. Safety? Are you saying that Emma Malone Lord can't handle people saying mean things to her on the internet? Heaven forbid. We have an army, okay? Now, if you want to attract these people to the army, I don't care. I respect people who join in any capacity. Excellent. It's a contract. You're signing your life to the U.S. government. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but I can respect what people, stand for. I can respect those who stand for this country and would like to defend it. But you got to be able to handle mean words on the internet, at the very least. Now, that statement is the more alarming thing to me out of anything. The weakness being exuded by the army, not because of the individuals, but because of the ad campaign being trash. It's not just this one about Emma. There's a bunch of ads, and they're very, very weak. It's amazing. We're worried the comments are going to hurt our soldiers. If mean words are going to hurt our soldiers, heaven help us when a war breaks out. Hopefully it doesn't. Now, the Army Times also has a very interesting article from May 5th. Pandemic and political discourse challenge Army recruiting efforts. They say Army officials involved in Ascension's policy spoke with reporters Wednesday ahead of a virtual recruiting push called Army National Hiring Days, which runs from May 10th to June 14th. The effort began last year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Recruits who begin the application process during the event for 11 priority jobs, including infantrymen, missile defense crewmen, and signals intelligence interceptor, will be offered $2,000 on top of their normal career field enlistment bonus. The virtual effort is part of yada yada. Quote, "We're in a pretty challenging recruiting environment right now," said Brigadier General Patrick Michaelis, Deputy Commanding General of the U.S. Army Recruiting Command. "It is because of the effects of COVID and because of the effects of the political discourse in the discussions going on in our country today." Michaelis did not elaborate when pressed, except to say that it's up to Army leaders to remain apolitical. So military service continues to be an option for today's youth. But they're not apolitical. We know what they're doing. They're running these extremism checks. They've already chastised people for waving the Gadsden flag. You want to talk about political? If the Gadsden flag is political and you're going to reassign a National Guardsman in D.C. for having that, how are you going to run an ad about pro-LGBTQ protests I'm sure conservatives don't agree with, or many don't? I'm sure many don't care. But the Gadsden flag is not for a politician. It doesn't represent a political party. It represents America. If you're going to go after people, we know you're playing politics. Who in their right mind would want to enlist I seriously enlist? Now, I can even understand if you want to get a commission, go to college or something, whatever. I hear too many stories from people who are excited about their military career leaving, not re-upping, because of the wokeness perpetuated in the military. And you know what? There you go. Let me show you a photograph. This is let me where are we at? This guy parachuting out of this what appears to be a bomber. Looking at this dude on the ground doing push-ups. That's what you get. That's what the Russians are showing people right now. Meanwhile, you're getting these statements saying mean words offend the delicate sensibilities of our soldiers. Our soldiers need to withstand active gunfire. You should leave the comments up and you should make them read it and say, if you are so mentally weak, you cannot withstand mean words, you are going to have a very bad time when conflict actually breaks out. But I got to be honest, many of these people probably will be doing administrative work. Here's the campaign from GoArmy.com. You can see that there's several people: Janine, Jennifer, Ricky, Emma, and David. And it's not just this one Emma campaign. I think a lot of people are probably taking issue with the two moms thing and the LGBTQ protests. I honestly don't care if somebody wants to engage in that. I've been to pro-LGBTQ protests and I've fundraised on behalf of pro-LGBTQ groups. By all means, do what you think is right. I think that's amazing. But I think it's political, and therein lies one of the issues. These other ads aren't political, for the most part. I think the closest thing you can get to political maybe is Ricky. This guy grew up in Haiti and he wants to serve America, but I think most people would probably agree that's a good thing. So maybe it's political because it involves immigration to a certain degree. But these other ads don't. For the most part, they don't. Janine's a story about a woman whose father served, and he served in Vietnam, and she was a singer, and ultimately, against her father's wishes, she decided to join. You have David, who grew up in Hawaii watching, the military, the helicopters. I really wanted to be a pilot. There's one of these ads that's more political than others. If the military starts getting political, people won't want to join. Watching these ads, they're very childish. They're very boring. And with all due respect to the subjects, because I think they're all great people, and I genuinely mean that, these ads are very, very, very poorly done. Let me show you something else. In The Unreachable Dream, David's story, he says growing up on army bases, David dreamed of piloting the helicopters he'd see fly over his backyard, but he never thought he was smart enough to make his dream a reality. I noticed something that I want to point out. On this artwork, his vision board, debt free is one of them. You see, this is why they're never going to get rid of the student loan problem, because debt is an excellent recruiting tactic. There you go. They say he was Army ROTC, Officer Commission, Flight School, Chinook pilot. I'll just point out, I've not served. I come from a family of people who served in the military, but my understanding is that you don't want to enlist. You're better off getting a commission, but people are going to do what they feel like doing. I looked at these ads, and in no way did they convey any sense of adventure or calling. It's called The Calling. And I'm like, these are actually really boring. Being a pilot, I suppose, is cool, but in many ways, it shows people doing really menial things. So I guess, in a sense, the left should be cheering for this ineffective propaganda. Conservatives, I understand why they're mad. They want people to enlist and become, I suppose, warriors serving this country. So I pulled up this video from Marine Corps recruiting. And there you go. There's a dude in a wooded area with his rifle. And this one's much more intense. There's a guy yelling at him as they're like moving through the water. And this is closer to what we saw with the Russian ad. So I will point this out. This one's also got, like 20% dislikes anyway. But I'll point out, I do think it's disingenuous to compare the Russian ad with the ad from Emma Malone Lord, because they're doing different things. The easiest way to understand it, the Army wants to recruit everybody. So they're going to make ads to try and target everybody. They're pretty bad ads, if you were to ask me. I don't know if they're going to convince these young women to join because of this story. It's weird. I don't think woke people are big fans of the military or joining the Army, but I guess, I guess if it fits their narrative, it fits their tribe or ideology, maybe that's the point. Using wokeness to convince people they should join, sure. This ad from the Marine Corps more so targets someone like me. Now, some people said, yeah, well, they're not trying to recruit 40-something, misanthropes on the internet. And I'm like, that's a good point. I'm not 40, I'm 35, but yeah, they don't want a 35-year-old misanthrope on the internet. No, they want 16-year-olds to be inspired. But is that going to inspire a 16-year-old? I don't think so. There's a question about purpose. In this Marine Corps commercial, it starts by showing a man wandering through a cyberpunk future with no purpose. When an advertisement appears before him trying to sell him shoes, and he screams and punches it and then falls in water, and he stands up and now he's a Marine. Targeting people who lack purpose. I don't see The Calling as actually targeting people who have purpose, but you can see they're trying, saying this was my calling, so I found it in the Army. Maybe. It feels to me like the goal of the Army is to try and get people to administrate. You need administrators, I guess. You need bureaucrats, the ever-expanding Army. I look back at the stories of the American Revolution, and I am deeply, deeply uninspired and, to this point now, detesting the Army culture. I watch movies like The Patriot. You want to talk about really great propaganda for joining the Army? It's The Patriot with Mel Gibson. What a great movie. And there's a point where this, Mel Gibson's character is given a field commission. And I'm like, the idea that you have a group of people who have rules, regulations, are well regulated, as it were, but are adaptable and can bring in this guy they know to be a great warrior. I was like, that's the way you get things done. Today, the Army as I know it is bureaucratic and gummed up and kind of ridiculous. I've heard that when people complain about the increasing ideology within the military and these reviews they're doing where they're tracking down, wrongthink, that the higher-ups don't care. That the higher-ups within the Army would rather see the Army collapse than make noise. And that, to me, says we're in serious trouble. Not the woke commercials, because, you look, like I said, it's countered by this Marine commercial. But the fact that there are politics being played in the armed forces. Recently, we saw a story where something was sent out to Army service personnel saying that MAGA was considered like white supremacy and you couldn't say it or something. You can't, it's politics. But where were the higher ups to be like, we have rules and standards, we won't do this? Nowhere to be found. My friends, the spinelessness that permeates this country is everywhere, and the Army is no exception. I can't speak for the Marine Corps, the Navy, or whatever else, but it certainly feels like we are being eroded from the inside out. What you need to understand about wokeness is that there's no rules. It is a chaotic, destructive force that will tear away at this country until it collapses. Case in point, one of my earlier segments on my other channel was about McDonald's being sued for $10 billion for being racist and not buying ads from black-owned media companies. McDonald's, presumably, which trying to be woke, created a special African-American advertising tier because they were trying to address the needs of a different community. Now they're being sued because it's racist. The Army will embrace wokeness, but wokeness is fire. It eats away at and destroys and consumes, and eventually the system will fall apart due to a lack of cohesion. An army of one. What did that really mean? Honestly, I don't know. But there needs to be, and I suppose it was meant to convey, unity. Like when you join the Army, you are there as one. You work together. Maybe, I guess, I don't know. But that's true. If you are in the Army, if you are part of this group, you need to be focused on a singular goal. But what happens when people are divided up by race based on this ideology permeating within the Army? Eventually, then, you get segregation, distrust, and a lack of cohesion. Things start to break apart. It seems like the U.S. is in serious trouble. They say empires can only last so long, I guess. How long has the U.S. been an empire? I don't know. But there it is. How long until we cannot remain cohesive? Look at what happened with Michael Flynn. They went after him for politics, and he was a general. That's how crazy things are. And we see it reflected in the CIA as well. This story from May 4th. It just keeps getting worse. CIA forges unity in diversity. Everybody hates their woke recruitment ad. A social media campaign featuring a self-described cisgender millennial Latin intelligence officer, Latinx, drew ire from right and left. They say in its long and colorful history, U.S. intelligence has come in for a lot of criticism, but engineering coups, drug trafficking, and torture. But just over 100 days into the Biden administration, it faces a new charge no one saw coming. Is the CIA just too woke? They say the focus in the uproar is a video about a Latina intelligence officer who declares, I am a cisgender millennial who has been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I am intersectional, but my existence is not a box-checking exercise. She says in the voiceover, I used to struggle with imposter syndrome, but at 36, I refuse to internalize misguided patriarchal ideas of what a woman can or should be. Oh, man, here we go. Let me break something down to all of you that's a harsh truth for the woke. Let me ask you a simple question. You're in a burning building. You're on the 3rd floor. You can't get out because the fire is raging too strong. And you hear the sirens in the distance and you think, oh, praise be, the firefighters are here to save me. Now, how would you feel if the door before you was broken open and there standing before you was a 120-pound, 5'3", 5'4" woman? You'd probably be like, oh, man. How would you feel if when the door was broken down, there stood a 6'5", chiseled, ripped man? You'd probably be a bit happier. I'm not disparaging the woman for her height. I mean, people are just tall and some people are not tall. Some people are small. Firefighters who are running into burning buildings don't always have to be 6'5" men. There are jobs for everybody, and it doesn't have to be a man. How would you feel if a 5 foot, tall, 100-pound man kicked the door open too? Like, the gender is less relevant. The point is, when we try to have diversity for the sake of diversity, we sacrifice capability. And one of the biggest discussions in the whole wokeness thing is meritocracy versus equity or equality of outcome. We want people who are the most capable to do the jobs. We want people from all backgrounds to have the opportunity to try. But if you can't do it, then perhaps we shouldn't put you in that position. We have the story about a CIA official with anxiety disorder. I mean, maybe that's something we don't want in our officers? Maybe we want a strong and capable, the cream of the crop, the best of the best. Remember Men in Black? You see Men in Black with, Will Smith? When he goes to the recruiting for the Men in Black, you have all these guys who are like, in the armed forces. And when they're asked why they're there, the guy's like, because we're the best of the best of the best, sir. And then Will Smith laughs about it. This is a really great example of what I'm talking about. In the movie, I know it's a movie, it's fiction, aliens aren't real, chill out. But it makes a good example. It makes my point about where we used to be in terms of what we thought made sense. Will Smith in the movie was just a cop, but he chased down a cephalopod with his own 2 feet. And Agent was it K, was very impressed by this. So he was willing to say to all of these cream of the crop, best of the best of the best military people, not interested. We want this beat cop from New York because he's capable. Now that makes sense. Platitudes and degrees were meaningless. Could you do the job? That was an idea from the 90s. I'm not saying it was real. I'm just saying at that time, people saw that and understood why it was right. That in reality, you might have someone standing there who checks all the boxes, but you want the person who can do the job regardless of this. Now, also, in the past couple of decades, we've had a problem where we demand college degrees for jobs that probably have no business asking for a college degree. And therein lies the problem. We need to get back to function and merit and equality of opportunity. Will Smith was a black street cop in that movie, and he was given one of the most prestigious positions in the world, a top secret Men in Black agent, because he was truly the best. These other guys could be, wearing the uniform and be great at what they do. But they found the guy who was right for the job, and he became the hero. Because we recognized back then that heroes could come from all different backgrounds. That's what equality of opportunity means. Someone could come from the street, from the hood, or from Haiti, like in one of these calling ads, and rise up to serve and to do that job. Too much now of what we see from the military is becoming stodgy, bureaucratic box checking. It's really funny to me. I was talking to somebody, and I remember seeing, these stories about how they could issue a field commission. And I was talking to someone, I was like, could they issue a commission to someone just like randomly? And I was told across the board, no. You need to go to college. After you get your degree, you can get commission. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Don't you get a commission for like the ability to do a job? No, we formalized everything. So now what you end up getting is, do you check the boxes? I'm sorry, a college degree does not mean you know what you're doing. Does not mean you're good at your job. In fact, honestly, I think a college degree likely shows that you're a drone and probably should not be in a leadership position. That's just my opinion. I'm dead serious. People come to me and they're like, what proves? I'll tell you this. I get resumes all the time, and too many of them are like, here's my accolades, my college degree. And I'm like, this doesn't show me any work. I don't care about a college degree. Show me a video of you doing a thing. If you want to claim you can backflip, don't show me you graduated from backflip school, because I don't care about that. Show me a video of you doing a couple backflips. Don't actually send me videos of backflips. I'm kidding. The point is, these woke commercials, these campaign ads, don't tell me the Army is capable. It tells me that they're focused on checking off boxes. Do we want an army of people that just look like a rainbow? Or do we want people who are able? That means one very important thing. Racial and gender discrimination are wrong. If we want truly the most capable, we cannot forego women or trans people or anyone from the LGBTQ community or people of different races, because then you are not creating true meritocracy. You're creating racial segregation for the sake of segregation. That's not what we want. I think we had it for some time. But now the woke are truly moving in, and we're getting this. Our CIA is just, we got to have somebody who's got anxiety disorder, I guess. We got to have someone who's 5 foot tall. Okay, 5'1", 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. At a certain point, we want to say the door is open to everybody, but whether or not you can cross the finish line is up to you. And that's not what we've been doing. So I'll end by saying this. I really think it's the criticism of this ad from Emma Malone Lord. I think it's really dumb. I think there's a problem with the military as a whole, but I mean specifically like the commercial's bad. What I mean is the people going after, it's hard to describe. I think we should separate the personal from the professional. The story from Emma Malone Lord about her and her two moms and wanting to join the Army, I think is cool. Fantastic. Thank you for standing up for what you believe in. And thank you for serving this country. Brilliant. And it just goes to show that anybody can do it. And there's probably a job for you. I know a lot of people are more traditional and want strong men in every position. And sure, if we had the option to have 1,000 soldiers that were all dudes, between the ages of 18 and 35, doing a variety of jobs, including administrative work, would you prefer that? Or if we could have 2,000 people and it was men and women between the ages of 18 and 35 and doing all different types of jobs, what would make more sense? Well, the way I see it is there are a lot of jobs that women can do that, we would prefer men not to do. I mentioned the analogy about the fire, the guy kicking the door in. Imagine if in the Army you had a equal parts men and women. I think mostly the Army is probably not female, but let's say that women enlisted at the same rate. You could then say, it's not because you're a man or a woman. It's because you happen to be able to carry 200 pounds for an extended period of time and fight. We're going to have you, infantry and in combat. And this individual is 5'1" and weighs 100 pounds. Hey, you can do technical work and support work and administrative work. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Increasing the amount of people who can serve, I think, is a good thing. The politics is a problem, though. I don't know how you solve for that. We need to be inspiring people and telling them basically like, you're joining for a reason. What I'm trying to say, and what I'll wrap up with is, I mean no disrespect to any of these individuals who are portrayed in these commercials, because I think they're all great people, and I think I have tremendously more respect for them for a lot of people in this country. Legit, you don't just get respect. However, these campaigns show that we're moving down a dangerous path. Mostly just the one commercial, but mostly just the direction of the military and the CIA. We can't be doing this. I don't know. I think we're being routed from the inside out. I think the worst thing of all is just the weird review they're doing and banning right-wing ideas and promoting left-wing ideas. It's just going to fall apart. But they've been warned and it doesn't matter. So I guess all you can do is sit back and watch. I'll leave it there. Next segment will be tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.